Hey, old friend.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome in, listeners. It's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah, welcome back to Quick Snaps. Comedy football talk. Mostly talk. We got no comedy or football.
Yeah, what would be happening right now under a regular NFL schedule? Would they have gone to some kind of mini camp or something at this point?
That's a good question. Funny enough, I don't know the answer to that. I find the summertime stuff to be sort of under the radar, and then you have these stories that break here and there that are kind of big and relevant, and trades and injuries, arrests, But the schedule of the mini camps and the returns and the practices, it's always been a blur to me. It doesn't stand out like some of the other year-long signposts do. That one's kind of a mush to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
The big one for me in the summer is the Hall of Fame game, which was canceled.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, they're not doing it. It's the first preseason game, and it's in Canton, and they do the Hall of Fame inductions, and apparently they're going to kick all those inductions into next year, and they canceled the game.
Interesting.
Meanwhile, Adam Schefter has, he knows more than anybody. He says that we're having a season. So he had an insider tell him that they've been doing this unbelievable development and organization of the testing and the plan and the scheme. And so who knows? Maybe we'll have football after all.
If I know America like I think I know America, they are prioritizing the NFL.
I would give up a personal test for Cam Newton to take one.
Oh, would you?
I don't think testing for a regular guy who's hiding at home is that important right this minute. But
I think you're in the minority, my friend.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think I would really give that up, but I do understand that. Like you said, we want football so badly. I think if there was some story that broke that the NFL was getting tests that could be used somewhere else, I don't think people would really care.
Yeah, I mean, it already kind of happened with the NBA, so
right.
If that's going to fly, the NFL's definitely going to fly.
Oh, man, I miss it. I don't know if it's a good idea. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, but I sure would love to watch some football.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. What's your guess as we sit here today at the very tail end of June? What's going to happen?
No season.
Yeah. I've been guessing that the whole time, and now I'm starting to think maybe they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, they might, and they also might have to shut it down.
That's what I think. I think there'll be. It doesn't even have to be in football. Some college volleyball team, or some baseball team, or some basketball team, some soccer team in Europe. There'll be like 17 dudes who've come down with it, one horrific story, and then they'll get scared.
Yeah. Again, the NBA is going to be a big test, because they're supposed to try to reopen towards the end of July, I think. So we'll see what happens there.
Now, they're all hiding in Orlando. They're in the bubble concept.
They're going to be in a bubble, yeah. Potentially for 3 months.
How do you do you can't even. There's too many humans. You could do a bubble of 4.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I'd love to see basketball, but I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's where I am. You said it exactly. That's exactly where I am. I'd love to see football, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't know. What reason do we have to believe that this is gonna get any better in the short term? I don't see much evidence of that.
No, it's going the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And now the young people are a bigger factor than we thought they were going to be too with the COVID.
People can't help themselves, man. They got to get out. It's the summer.
It's funny. I would love to get out, but I also don't care that much. I guess I'm an old man though. If I was 22, I'd probably have a different opinion about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All right. Well, we do have some news. We got some new news this week. Cam Newton's going to be a Patriot. I recycled the old joke. Cam Newton on the move. Imagine all the hat boxes. I'm kind of mad at the rest of the NFL for letting that happen. Like, what are you doing? No one signed Cam Newton?
Yeah,
the Patriots finally screwed themselves by not making a move in the quarterback universe, and then you just handed him a former league MVP. It's not, you know.
That's one of the biggest stories of this potential season.
For sure. And a couple articles today were interesting to me. They were about Cam Newton. Not only is he very high on the list of comeback players of the year on Vegas gambling, he's high on the overall player of the year. He's ranked like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, of all the players in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, there might be some short-term inflation because of the buzz, but, you know, this is the list with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and, like, there's like 8 or 9 dudes ahead of him. But he's on that list, and he's ahead of Matt Ryan.
What?
Yeah.
Matt Ryan's the best. He's the best quarterback in the NFC.
He did call himself the best quarterback in the division this week.
Just the
last
division,
week.
not the whole conference.
The division. Well, I mean, it's the division with the best quarterbacks. It's got Tom Brady and Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston.
I mean,
not to mention, what's his name? The other quarterback for the Saints. I forget his name.
Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's in that division.
Better put some
He's calling him out.
On name. Taysom
None.
Hill.
I have none.
No respect.
He's the distant third best quarterback on his team now.
Go Gadget.
I actually think Matt's right. I think this is the first year it's true.
Well, that's because you've been nut hugging Drew Brees for so long.
Because I think Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
He is, but not anymore.
I think that's right. I think this is the first year that Matt Ryan is the better quarterback. And I think he's better this year than Tom Brady as well. So I think he's right.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think he's right, too. Yeah. Brady's at the end. Brees is at the end. Ryan's still in his prime.
Yeah, he might be past the high point, but he's in the prime for sure.
Who did the Panthers?
Yeah, I agree.
Who are the Panthers rocking with Kyle Allen in this next season, or did they sign somebody?
I blanked. I forget. No, they signed somebody. It's Bridgewater.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so
Teddy Bridgewater.
I guess they'll battle it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good quarterbacks in that division, man. That's crazy. But soon, not so many good ones. Those two good guys are awful old.
They could fall off a cliff very quickly.
Yeah, that's right. Both of them. And this could be the last year for both of them either way.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean,
and Matty Ice is he likes black people more. He has been he has been super cool about this recent movement. In fact, he's doing a big radiothon today on Atlanta radio, promoting and making money for the cause. He donated $500,000 to a Black Lives Matter funding thing. He's been very outspoken. I'm proud of that quarterback. He's good.
Now, when you say he likes black people more, do you mean that he likes black people? No, serious question.
This is our last podcast ever.
Couched in a ridiculous way. When you say he loves black people more, do you mean that he loves black people more than he used to, or he loves black people more than Tom Brady and Drew Brees does?
It's a little bit of a side kick at Drew Brees and Tom Brady, who have at least been quiet. And then Brees also had a very clumsy, ridiculous comment that he had to clean up. And now, I think it's possible, for the listener who hasn't followed this, you probably have, but Drew Brees gave about a month ago, gave his standard answer to a question about kneeling during the anthem. I think it's disrespectful, and my grandfather and the war and blah, blah, blah. And it just happened to land at the most, it just sounded so ridiculously tone deaf at the time.
Yeah.
And his players trashed him on Twitter. Michael Thomas.
And Malcolm. Yeah? What was his
Alvin
name?
Kamara, a couple other players, and apparently...
Malcolm Jenkins. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah. And apparently the whole world turned upside down. And again, I don't know what's in his heart, but he could give some apology lessons to Louis C.K., that's for sure. He and his wife both, took full responsibility and talked about being in tears and talking to people about it and realizing the error of their ways. And I mean, again, I don't know the guy. They might be full of shit, but it sounds true to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you gotta give him the benefit of the doubt that there's an opportunity to grow and listen and learn, and have a genuine change of heart / apology. So I guess you give him that. Right?
I think so. Because if you were, I'm joking about Louis because I'm still mad at him for not doing it, but it felt like the perfect apology. And the wife actually went on Instagram and wrote this whole long thing about, she's crying while she's writing this, and she realizes that they have been part of the problem, and they've had some really big conversations with some of the people around them, and they've changed their minds, and they're so apologetic, and they're going to strive to be better. And it's really interesting. I was kind of moved by that,
Yeah.
So, to me, those kind of things are a sign that in the last month, I feel like we're moving the needle on this social justice movement. I feel like there actually is some conversation and some change in attitudes.
Yeah.
Am I being too optimistic, or do you think that's true?
No, I don't think so. I think that's, I guess, one. It's weird to call it a positive because it's like, how do you measure that and whatever? But yeah, it's I think so. At least some people are open to ideas that maybe they weren't always open to, and exploring within themselves and within others what's going on in their heads and unconscious biases and things like that.
Right.
And systemic problems as well. So I feel like that's a conversation that's definitely being had.
Right.
More than ever in my lifetime.
Right. And I've been talking about it with people on Facebook. I've been doing this thing, 50 Toasts, on my Facebook fan page. If I didn't plan to plug that today, but if you're interested, it's sort of happened a little bit organically. I ended up talking to our boy Brian Miller, longtime friend and contributor to Quick Snaps. He's probably number 3 on the Quick Snaps totem pole. You heard me, Glenn Grizzard.
Yeah, I was going to say, that you just heard him deep in his soul. He's going to dive into some kudzu and never look back, bro. He's coming up from Key West just to dive into the old kudzu and call it a day, bro. To fucking skip him on the totem pole and the hierarchy, that fucking cuts him deep. Cuts him so deep. I know it does.
I just
from
blurted
you,
it out.
If it was from me,
I didn't have time.
No.
I didn't have time to think about it. I'm not sure I'm going to stand behind that.
All right, well, listen. We're going to have open and honest conversations about how you feel about Glenn Grizzard and his place in Quick Snaps, man. It's time to have that conversation because you might save a friend today.
Oh, that's really funny.
But
we love you, Glenn.
I digress.
You're easily top 4. Funny, very funny. So totally. I basically, I did this thing called 50 Lunches. I did it in New York about 3 years ago, where it was just an excuse to try to meet with 50 friends over the course of a year and get out of the house and reconnect with some of the smartest, funniest, most interesting people that I know that I never see. And so when I came to LA, I did a version of it last year. And then I wanted to do a cyber version of it. And Glenn Grizzard said to me, he was my first one, yeah, but eating on camera sucks.
He's right.
He's right. So we made it 50 toasts. We do one quick toast and have a drink, and it's a one-on-one thing. So I've been doing it on Facebook Live, and about a month ago, a little month and a half ago, when everything went down in Minneapolis, I ended up talking to Brian Miller, who owns a home in Minneapolis pretty close to downtown.
Yeah. I got to go back and watch that.
Had cops in riot gear, and some people in the neighborhood found accelerants hidden in bushes around.
Yeah, I was following them pretty closely on Twitter when it was all happening, and I was very concerned and fascinated at the same time.
Yeah, so we ended up having a big conversation, from his front row seat about what was going on. Yeah. And then, of course, at the end, we sort of were asking each other, what do we do now and what's next? And then my mom, who's my biggest fan, maybe she's number 3 on the quick snap soda poll. Mom and I were talking about it, and she goes, we're 2 white guys talking about social justice. You got to find someone who doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
So I moved Al Jackson up my list of, I actually had him, in my head that I wanted to talk to anyway.
Adam and
so the next week, I talked to Al Jackson, who was great, really thoughtful and easy to talk to and really smart and open-hearted. Like, we had a really good talk. And then the next week, I talked to Todd McComas, who is a longtime friend of mine and comic and former cop.
Yes.
He spent over 20 years as a detective. So it was cool to hear his side of the desk. And then last week was Ted Lyde, who's another friend of mine who doesn't look like me, lives here in LA. That was a good conversation. And next week, Ted Alexandro, this week coming up. So that'll be Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live. And you can just go to my fan page and kind of scroll up. If you're a little bit patient, you can scroll up and watch all of these. And if I get my shit together, I'll post some on YouTube as well.
I plan on catching up.
So anyway, I didn't mean to get into all that, but in having those conversations...
Are you dumping some concrete? What's happening?
I'm outside. These are the sounds of LA. I'm surprised we haven't had a police helicopter yet.
Oh man, do you remember the one season where we couldn't get a recording without the landscapers?
Yes, yeah, Monday afternoons. That was a bad run.
Awful.
I think it's a garbage truck. That's one of my favorite things about the pandemic is when the 2-year-old hears a garbage truck, the amount of enthusiasm that shoots through her body. She just cannot wait to run outside and see the garbage truck.
Yeah, she's probably got no other patterns in her life, so she's like, she's just like, it's 4 o'clock on Friday. This is garbage time. All right. Nothing else to look forward to, the poor kid.
Just like me.
I know. Anyway, I'm sorry. You were saying before you buried that body.
Yeah, that's all right. I in having these conversations, again, it's a little bit of a clumsy parallel, but I do feel like the Me Too movement moved the needle. I feel like it helped men to hear the female experience because the gap is so wide in our experiences around sexuality. And I think men listened more than they ever have. And we got a long way to go, but I think it moved the needle. I think there's a lot more understanding and a lot more awareness of not being a jackass when it comes to dealing with women than there used to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like this last month we're having a similar needle moving about race and about the experience that's happening to the non-white folks in the world, especially when dealing with cops. And I feel like it's again, a long way to go, but I feel like the needle has moved, finally.
I'm not going to bite my tongue on this one. I think Donald Trump deserves a little bit of credit for that, because on a basic human level, he's a piece of shit. And two of the biggest ways that he's a piece of shit is that he doesn't respect women, possibly raped a lot of them, and
Right.
doesn't respect minorities. So here it is. This is as ugly as America can get right now, and it might only get worse, but at least we're talking about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong about that. But you think, separate from the president, you don't think culturally we're moving in the right direction on this subject?
Yeah, but I think it's been, yeah, of course, but I think it's been accelerated by just how ugly he is and his enablers are, and it just reached a boiling point where to just sit back and let it happen would be suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. He's really awful.
Yeah. So
I mean, all these little dog whistles to the, super right, awful, segment of his base. It's really, I don't know how he sleeps at night.
in a robe with a few
on a
holes
gold
in
bed.
it.
Yeah. In prostitute pee.
Sometimes Lady G comes over and gives him a little hookup.
So I don't know. You're not wrong.
I'm sorry
I
for
don't
taking
disagree
it there.
No, you're not wrong. I totally agree, and I think one of the many problems in our current American, life is that we're not getting the same information. The news is so splintered that if you only watch your news, it's like you don't know that there's other news.
Yeah, it is a big problem.
And so there's a segment of the universe that doesn't realize what a monster Donald Trump is because that's not being reported to them. Certainly not in that light.
Right.
So I agree with what you said. I do feel like a big swath of the rest of the culture is finally listening a little bit to the conversation that, I mean, simple things like to use the parallel, and also it's funny. It's an unnamed friend of mine said something funny about the movement with the female comedians right now are all kind of saying their piece about the sexism in the industry. He goes at a time that with the coronavirus and Black Lives Matter, how did white women make it about them again?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Which is not fair and wrong, but also hilarious.
Yeah. That's yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're listening to those points of view and we're being open and real about those, and I think that's useful. And I think it's happening with the, some black comics that I know have been saying, one in particular in New York had this whole Instagram post that really moved me. He said, he laid out these several experiences that he had with cops when he was young, and he ended up going home and crying and swallowing it, and he went on to say, like, this whole story that, people say it lit the fuse. No, this thing has been going on for years, and it just is exploding now because of all the pent-up tension from forever. And he said, look, I have 30 or 40 or 50 of these stories. And that really touched me because I don't have any of those stories. And none of my friends have stories like that, None of my close friends that I hang out with on a daily basis, they're all white guys,
Yeah.
And I think that realization that we're having a different experience is similar to the Me Too movement. So I hope, and maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that it moves the needle. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so.
I saw you somewhere. Did you go to a protest or an outing of some kind? I saw some picture since I talked to you last.
Yeah.
Were you out doing something?
We went to a couple. Yeah. There's
That's cool, man.
There was one in Asbury Park and one in Toms River, New Jersey. Interesting experiences for sure. I mean, Asbury Park was much bigger. There was probably, I don't know. We'll say 1,000 people. I don't know what the number was, but it felt like 1,000, or whatever that feels like. And it was well organized. There were people that were speaking at the post office, and then I think they marched for like what felt like 5 miles. But it was a pretty decent amount of time, and there was an energy there for sure that was undeniable, and it felt good to be there and to experience it and to just feel what people are feeling and try to help in even that little way. But
right.
yeah,
that's cool, man.
I mean, that was good. I guess it did get a little ugly after we left. I guess there was a little bit of cop and protester clashing. Then I went to the one in Toms River, which was so freaking interesting. This is my backyard, basically, and I knew nothing about it. One of my friends texted me and was like, "Yo, watch out, heard Antifa's coming to Toms River tomorrow." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like,
"There's a sentence no one's ever said."
And he was like, "No, like, for real, like, these people are going nuts." And he showed me this Facebook post, and I guess it was on the Toms River police Facebook page, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we heard that blah blah blah, there's gonna be a march and whatever." And oh my god, the comment section, just people losing their goddamn minds. Businesses boarded up the day before. People really thought there were gonna be riots here.
Well, it's scary, man. You watch the news and you're like, if that happens here, I don't know. I get it.
I get it. Yeah, I guess. But it was like, why? It was, and then you find out, and this is what you're talking about with information, that this rumor was started by some white nationalist website.
Yeah.
Pretending to be Antifa.
Right.
And saying, we're going to come to all your white neighborhoods and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this march was organized by a young lady. I don't know how old she was, but, there was... I was late for the march, but I went to the protest after that. And it was like, 100 people. And it was like, it was a different energy than Asbury Park. Because it almost felt like... Because they were very disorganized, the protest in Toms River. Very disorganized. I gotta tell you, dude, this was so fucking tragically funny. This wannabe preacher comes out to where the people are protesting, which is on the side of a highway. And this guy is Italian, and he puts up like this mobile PA system and just starts like talking. And he starts talking about how Italians were once discriminated against, and that 42% of Italians identify as black and 40% identify as white. And then he starts talking about how the coronavirus is keeping the churches closed and they got to open them back up. And I've seen a lot of comics bomb. I've seen a lot of bad speeches, but I'm not sure if I saw someone miss the mark as badly as this dude did at this protest. Everybody was just like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like, I didn't come here for this.
That's funny.
But yeah, man, I don't know. We went to those, and that was like, what I was getting at is that, like, just to show up to that Toms River protest, because there was mostly kids, and I got to give them a lot of credit just for showing up, because there's so much fear leading up to the thing that just showing up was kind of radical. You know what I mean? Because you get a lot of threats the other way. Of like, right. Yeah, try to bring that shit. All of a sudden, everybody that protests is Antifa now, so they got targets on their back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just by the very nature of the fear people are spreading out there. So I give them a little bit of credit for that. But it's just, I feel more responsibility for things that happen, in Toms River or that greater area, because this is where I grew up. This is where I chose to live now. So,
right.
I'm still like struggling on what I can do around this area, because it's just like, I don't know. It's a different energy, and I think it's just because it's mostly white people.
Yeah, right. Right.
So
yeah, that's the struggle. I mean, I've been trying to figure out what the answer is to what more can I do? And I feel like the key to the whole thing, and I might be overstating this, is to have open conversations with people about it. And then there's a big list of all the other 37 things, call your congressman and, post on Facebook and talk to your friends. And, I bought a Black Lives Matter t-shirt that I wear on my bike now sometimes. I'm trying to do all the little things. I'm trying to shut up and listen too. I mean, it seems like some of the angriest voices are saying that they're not being heard, and they're asking that their white allies listen more instead of talk. So I've been trying to do that as well. So,
right.
It's I think one of my favorite things that Al Jackson said was, he had this great example of, he goes, a lot of my white friends say, they're doing the right things, they're good dudes. And then when they go home for Thanksgiving, they got a crazy uncle who, drinks a half a bottle of something, and then the N word starts flying. They don't know what to do with that. And he sort of holds their feet to the fire. He goes, you use your I'm saying this badly, he said in a much better way, but use your presence for good. Like, you can say to him, you're not going to say that around me. I can leave, or you can change, the way you speak around me. Those are the choices. I'm not going to be here for this. And you can slowly move the ball by making those decisions and having your presence in the space. And I love that. I think that's a simple concept,
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to do sometimes. I mean,
of course. I'm not saying it's easy to do. I'm saying it's a simple idea.
No,
yeah,
I mean, I'm currently struggling with that exact scenario right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
yeah, it's tricky, man. I mean, I've got, my grandfather's long gone, but my American grandfather, he would send me. He did it in a more of a Barry Goldwater Republican sort of way. He would send me clippings of things from the Wall Street Journal. Usually, he would try to speak to me that way.
Wait. He was sending his grandson propaganda.
Yeah. But it's fine because he was thoughtful about it. But he did have a few things here and there that were, a little over the line, and I've definitely got some other characters that I know in my world that are sometimes inappropriate in things they say. So I like that as a note, The problem is most racism doesn't happen in an overt way like that.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can run over and stop at an intersection. It's mostly pervasive and quiet and ever present. It's not. If I think about the times in my life that I can go back and go, I should have been more. There's only, maybe several ever. It's usually not very overt. That's the problem with racism, I think. One of the problems.
Yeah.
But yes, you can certainly have your presence, move the ball a little bit by, someone starts a racist joke after a show at the CD table. You can shut that down and say the right thing about it. There's those kind of moments that happen for sure. I don't know. I liked, Brian Miller had a cool idea. He said, whatever your thing is, open yourself up to the other versions of that thing. Like if you love stand-up, watch more black stand-up. If you love music, listen to more black music. If you love movies, watch the movies from a black point of view. And that applies to things that aren't black too. Open yourself up to other things and whatever your passion is, which I think was a cool.
It
I like that.
sounds like a simple thing, but that really is all the difference in a lot of these things is just exposure, and it's like what I find very confounding is that I guess this in itself is going to sound a little bit racist, but hear me out. Just
our last podcast ever.
I know it is. Canceled. We are canceled. So edgy. But like, just using the example of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Most people would say black culture. I don't understand white people who can love hip hop, like love it, and are still racist. Because like, how can you listen to these lyrics and things that like, are you just in it for the beats? Is it the old Chris Rock bit? Where you don't really hear the lyrics, you're just in it for the beat. I mean, I don't know, but like just that in general, like what Brian's talking about is just like take out whatever I just said because that was nonsense and clumsily spoken. But the idea is that if you listen to people's stories, even if it is in the form of entertainment, whether it's plays, movies, music, painting, whatever way that people are expressing themselves, and if they look different than you, then maybe you'll start to understand their existence and have a little bit more empathy.
Yeah, I think that's great. You made up for your clumsiness. That was beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Now we don't have to edit the first part.
That's what I was aiming for. It's a lot easier to talk my way out of this than edit it.
And you're a good editor. That's a high bar. Yeah, I think that's well said. I think about my own feelings and understandings about things. A lot of it comes from, watching Spike Lee movies and, like listening to Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy when I was a kid. So I didn't have a lot of black exposure when I was a little guy. Those things were important pieces to the puzzle. And when I talked to Ted Lyde, it's funny, he was one of the first headliners I ever worked with. And we lived in a condo together for like 6 days, at the very beginning of my stand-up career. And he taught me some black stuff I didn't know because I wasn't around black people a lot, He taught me about, he had this crazy cream he would put on his face to minimize the shaving bumps and all this stuff. He taught me how to play spades. And
Spades it was is cool a great game. I'm not, like...
Spades...
I kind of hate that that one's seen as a black game because I grew up playing it and I love it.
Did you? That's interesting. It's been a while since I played it. It's like, is it fair to say it's black hearts? Is it like hearts?
See, I don't really know hearts that well.
See, I faded. I lost my connection to spades. But yeah, I mean, of course, I think that's great advice. I watched, Krista and I went on a little jag of watching a bunch of black stand-ups in the last few weeks to kind of taking Brian's advice, and it was great. The Michael Che special on Netflix is the most underrated comedy special of the last decade. Wow. It's fucking great.
Really?
Yeah. Let's discuss that. It's from 2016. He's got a Black Lives Matter chunk in there that is like beautifully written. And there's several other beats about the black experience that are really cool to hear him talk about. He's really good. In fact, I think it's better than the new Chris Rock special.
I just rewatched the Chris Rock special like 2 days ago. And for some reason, I didn't like it as much as the first time I watched it.
I had the opposite. I was really disappointed the first time. When I watched it again, I was like, all right,
well,
it's good.
Yeah, I guess if you're going back after this, and yeah, I don't know. For some reason, It didn't hit the same way for me.
It's not as funny as most of his stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as polished and good at being funny. But it does reveal a lot about the black experience. If you're looking for that.
Yeah, it does.
It's definitely got that. But I would say that this is a really clumsy parallel. We'll have a competition. If the new Chris Rock special is Lenny Bruce, then the Michael Che special is George Carlin. It's a lot of the same subjects, but it's so much funnier.
Uh-huh.
It's really well done.
Okay. I got to give it a listen or a watch. I haven't been...
It's on Netflix. It's easy to play it while you're doing something else in the background. It's really good.
I'll give it a go.
I didn't even really know of him as a comic. For me, he came out of nowhere, Michael Che.
What I had heard, I didn't really love. That's why I didn't really watch his special. So, but, I'm willing to go back again.
Well, I skipped that. I'd like to go back and see some stuff that's not very good. See how far he came.
There you go. That's fun. That's a nice little journey.
If you watch the early Chris Rock stuff with the flat top, when some of those jokes are like, really? That's the joke you're doing? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking the second time watching this newest one, the tambourine. I was like, that joke out of anyone else's mouth is hacky as shit. There was a couple of those where I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And I hate saying it because he's like one of my comedy heroes, but I was just like, I don't know.
I know.
Anybody could have made that joke.
A handful of my favorite comics in the world have done specials recently that are big drop-offs. I don't want to trash anybody, but
sure.
A handful of the giants of our industry, their recent special is a drop off from the prior stuff. I think it's because there's so much pressure to keep churning them out.
Yeah,
these guys, they don't have time to really bake them and get them up to A level the way they should. That's the American expectation. Outside of America, in the English-speaking world, there's a much stronger ethic to have a new hour every year or so. Those guys go and they go back to the same comedy festivals in Melbourne and, Edinburgh and all the different places, and they're expected to have a new hour.
Can we talk about the comedy industry for a second?
Sure, but just to finish the sentence, just so people know. But in those places, there's a very strong ethic to turn material over, but there's a much softer expectation about the material being A+. They don't. If you did those, arguably those shows, if done in front of an American audience, the American audience would be like, yeah, it's not very good. It's a different expectation. I'm exaggerating a little bit to make the point.
I understand. Yeah. I think
they're not polished as well.
Yeah. You just got to get something out there to get something on the record.
Right. Well, they're way more prolific because the expectation is that you come back to the same city the next year for the same festival and you're doing a different show.
Yeah.
Which is kind of amazing. I'm not taking anything away from guys that do that. It's astounding.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Talk to me about the comedy industry.
Well, it's on the same line of that, but it's I think a big problem for what you're saying is people putting stuff out that's maybe not that polished or whatever, is that there's so much pressure on the same 50 comics to put something out every year because that's all that's being pushed. The same 50 comics keep getting every opportunity to do this new television show or this new whatever's coming out. It's the same 50 comics. And they keep getting every opportunity. So if it's the same 50 comics, they're going to be saying pretty much the same shit. And they're not going to be pushed in any kind of direction or motivated or anything if they continue to get these opportunities that other people are more deserving of, that would be forcing this other comic to work harder on their stuff. So I think everybody suffers when that's the case. And I think that the people that are in charge of making these decisions, the agents, managers, whoever it may be, are just comfortable with whoever makes them money and that's who they're going to keep pushing. So there's not a lot of room for growth for people that are at a certain level that are looking to go to the next level. You know what I mean? And there's not enough. There's not enough of that. And I don't know, like, is it just money? Is that the bottom line, or is it what is it?
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the same 50 comics. And to the comedy industry, I have a question for you. Aren't you embarrassed?
Exactly. Why would you do that?
I hope the listener gets that, because that's really funny. Why would you do that? A friend of the Quick Snaps family. He's been on our
Sebastian,
show.
Big fan.
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Check out his show, Pete and Sebastian, on wherever you get your podcast. Good.
I put Glenn ahead of Sebastian Maniscalco on the Quick Snaps Hall of Fame.
That's talking him off the ledge.
On the Mount Rushmore of Quick Snaps. There's no Sebastian Maniscalco there?
No. You can't just dip your toe in and get on Mount Rushmore.
I think you're right. It's I think it's the nature of the business side that, because when a comic pops, there is such a forceful head of steam in terms of financial implications that it's impossible not to have flies drawn to that. It's just like when a comic is really blowing up, that moves eyeballs and money to everyone involved. And so it's impossible not to try to keep that ball in the air and keep your eye on that ball, because, trying to figure out a way to turn Mike Kaplan into a star is a pain in the ass.
And do you get pot committed at some point?
I mean, you can't. I mean, Chris Rock is going to make money. It doesn't matter if the thing is particularly fantastic this time.
Yeah, well, I'm not necessarily talking about Chris Rock in this instance, but yeah.
Right. But that's the answer. I mean, it applies to all the lesser versions of the same dynamic of whoever is blowing up, whether they're good or not. Blowing up is a tremendously powerful force in the business side of the universe. It can't be stopped when it's a juggernaut for a while, and you can pitch shows and sign deals and the social media advertising, and it's just there's this crazy force, and helping to build a thing from nothing into a force is a giant pain in the ass and usually doesn't work. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, you're taking risks all the time, no matter what side of the coin you're on. But I don't think there's enough risks being taken.
I agree. You're right again.
Because, I mean, I don't know. Isn't it much more rewarding to be right about somebody that no one else is seeing, and then that person becomes the guy of many guys?
That's rewarding in your heart, but you can't, you're not buying a house in France the way you are if you just pick up the thing that's already on fire.
So everybody's just trying to pick up the fire.
Yeah, of course. That's why unknown comics can't get agents and managers, which is what they need to become known comics. It's the classic catch-22 of, well, especially of show business, but arguably all of humanity. Is it's hard to become a thing without the help that you need to get to be the thing. But 15% of what I make is not worth picking up the phone. Like, I understand both sides of this conversation. 15% of what Chris Rock makes will make you a zillionaire. These aren't the same numbers. I get it.
I hear you.
Well, this is a good conversation. The only bad thing is we agreed about everything. We got to go back to Taysom Hill, probably.
Better not besmirch the good man's name.
He's done.
Done?
When your team signs Jameis Winston and it finishes your career, that you weren't really up to prime time. That's all I'm saying.
He's just getting started, man.
I'm not against him as a person. I'm saying benching Drew Brees to play him is a ridiculous strategy. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He seems lovely. He's clearly a fantastic athlete. By the way, I listened to this first argument in the promo. It happened to pop up on memories at some point in the last couple of months. It's a beautiful, hilarious conversation, and you edited it perfectly for the promo, and nobody watched it or liked it. What is it about if something feels like you're promoting something, even if it's not for money? Like when I promote here, for instance, 50 Toasts. Nobody responds or likes those posts because it feels promoting. I'm not making any money on those. I'm not promoting it for some grand scheme where I'm sticking it to the man. Like, people hate promotions.
Well, Facebook feels like it's just a few years away from Drew Brees right now. It's at the tail end of its career.
You think so?
Lord willing. I know I'm on it less and less.
I get it. I just think it's such a monolithic giant beast that doesn't have a clear replacement. I don't think it goes away. I think the younger people will find other places to do stuff, but I don't think it ever disappears now. It's such a institution in our lives.
So eventually it'll just be all reverse mortgage and denture advertising. Pretty close. We're pretty close to that.
You think it's old people's MySpace? That's what's happening
eventually with it? It'll just be old people.
That might be right.
Yeah.
There's definitely hipper places to go that are like that. What didn't we cover, man?
Football.
We did everything. We didn't really talk football. I'm mad at the NFL for letting Cam Newton fall to the Patriots.
Yeah.
They should be out there scrambling and trying to trade for Nick Foles or Andy Dalton or some shit. They just signed Cam Newton for the league minimum. That's not fair. It's a stupid league.
I guess everybody's giving up on him, and that's what I mean. It's going to be one of the biggest stories of the potential season.
If he's not hurt, I mean, it's the craziest bargain in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
Being handed to Bill Belichick again.
Yeah, the veterans minimum, so they're not risking any money.
They risk nothing. In fact, I read something today. The way it's this super incentive-laden thing.
Yeah, and
way the contract is written, if they love Jared Stidham in the preseason, they could cut him before the season even starts and be fine.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most team-friendly contract ever.
Right. So, assuming he does make the team, and he's the starter, it'd be good to see, does he still have it? Because the league is saying no. But the Patriots are saying, why not roll the dice?
And the league might be right, but part of the reason that the league said we don't know is because of COVID-19. They can't bring him in and really check him out, which is the reason that he fell into this sort of Todd Gurley-esque quandary where no one knew if it was worth the risk.
Dude, your team is going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if Todd Gurley's healthy, that's a great signing too. It's the same thing. I think, can't we collectively, the other 31 teams, try to not hand them every fucking advantage?
But what if they're right? What if they're right, though? That's what I'm saying.
The Patriots they're always right. Of course. They're good at this stuff.
How can they always be right?
They're good. They're right. They make decisions that are good over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they don't care about loyalty, and they'll let Tom Brady walk, and they'll sign Cam Newton for pennies, and he'll be better than Brady was going to be this year, and there'll be this giant fucking success story again. You can just see it coming. It might not happen, but they certainly set up a situation where they could be great again. They certainly made decisions to put themselves in a spot like that. And they have all the money to spend on all the other positions that they're not spending $30 million on Tom Brady. 35, whatever it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you're right. I think you're right that this is a bargain and it is a steal. And hopefully Cam does perform at a crazy level. And I'd also like to see how much the Patriots play games with those incentives.
I don't think they're cheap. They're just trying to use the salary cap to win the games. But they're not going to bench him because it's going to owe him another $1 million or something. Right? No, they're so good at this. They made Matt Castle look good at being a quarterback, so they could probably win with Stidham, right?
I mean, they made Brady look good. System quarterback.
System quarterback. That's the most fun story. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Are they going to be the unstoppable force that some people think? I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be fine and a great storyline, but I don't think they're going to be. They're not going to beat the Falcons.
They might, man. They got some weapons on offense.
They certainly have all the weapons. Although they're aging weapons. A couple of those weapons are past their prime.
Hopefully they'll all get exhausted by Gronk taking them to the strip clubs and shit. But
Brady to Gronk in pewter. What a fucking scene.
Gross.
What is happening? Yeah, those
man.
uniforms are gross.
I think our buddy Eddie Barry had a pretty good tweet about Cam Newton joining the Patriots.
What was that?
He wrote, "Makes perfect sense. We know that Belichick loves cams." Cheater, pumpkin eater.
Yeah, so we didn't mention that. They were fined this week.
This week?
$1.1 million.
For what?
And they lose their third-round draft pick, and they're not allowed to film anything this year.
For what?
That's their for Bengal.
This is
Spygate.
That. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, what was the punishment again?
It's a little over $1 million fine. They lose their third-round draft pick. They can't film anything like that this year, and they fired the guy. Which, of course, he did what they told him to do, but it looks bad, so they have to fire him. Like he's the problem.
So, if I'm hearing you right, sounds like a risk worth taking.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know how much information you're really gleaning from that kind of thing, but they clearly are pressing the limits of fairness at every turn.
Yeah.
They're good, and they cheat. And they've also had the luckiest streak of the best quarterback of all time, the best tight end of all time, the best coach of all time. All the same decade. That's not fair. Mm. And the worst division foes of all time. Over that decade and a half, the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins were atrocious. The best team from any of those three was led by Mark Sanchez. Remember that year and a half where that was the thing?
Or the Bills last year, man. The Bills are going to be fun.
I think the Bills are one of the most fun teams to root for going forward. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen, is he the real deal?
Josh Allen being a thing would be awesome.
Picking up Jarvis Landry, my man. That's a tough team. They're going to win that division.
Wait a minute. Jarvis Landry is a Bill?
He's a Bill.
No.
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of...
Stefon Diggs. Sorry, Stefon Diggs.
Stefon Diggs, that's right.
My bad.
Jared Allen was a surprise answer to a bonus question on Fantasy Throwback. He was one of the biggest fantasy point totals from last season.
Did you say Jared Allen?
I did, because I'm dumb. Josh Allen. Jared Allen is the big Vikings linebacker dude.
Yeah, it'd be impressive if he was leading the league in some stat last year without playing.
Saying dumb things to women, he could lead that. he seems like the kind of guy who would lead in that.
Those stats roll over to when the career's over. Yeah.
No, Josh Allen quietly had a crazy good fantasy year last year.
He did.
I didn't even know that.
I was busting my friend's balls for taking him in fantasy, but he obviously was right.
Yeah. I think this is the year you wait on quarterback until next year when there's a real draft.
That's every year now. It's every year.
It's not every year, especially in our league, because there's so many points. The quarterback gets 6 points for a passing touchdown.
And there's 16 goddamn teams, so you could run the risk of only having one quarterback.
It's terrifying when to get down to that, like, third tier of quarterback. You're like, this is my guy for a whole year?
Now you can get Jameis on the cheap.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Pray for a Drew Brees injury, which, as a Falcons fan, quietly do. For the last 20 years, whatever it is.
Just being honest.
It's nothing personal. Good talk, man. I miss you, buddy.
Yeah, I miss you too. It was good chatting with you. I don't talk to anybody anymore these days.
I know, me neither. I do 50 toasts, and that's it.
I know.
Hey, that's a good segue to the plug. So this week, we're doing Wednesday Fantasy Throwback, Thursday 50 toasts, and this is the last week of that. And then we're morphing into an all Wednesday lineup. So the first Wednesday of every month will be Fantasy Throwback, the world's great fantasy football game show. The only game show that asks people to predict some shit that already happened. And then the other Wednesdays will be 50 toasts. So it'll be an all Wednesday lineup, 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live.
Wait, you going back to back, same night?
No, we're going to do one per night, but it's going to be Fantasy Throwback's going to be once a month. So it's all Wednesday.
Got it. That
we're
makes
kind of
sense.
Consolidating. We're shrinking down the amount of content, making it all Wednesdays.
I like it. So you're the hardest working man in showbiz on Wednesdays.
What are you, my subconscious? I'm trying to.
Nah, I see you out there hustling, man. I'm not taking anything.
I'm doing some hustling. I got to get up tomorrow at 4:50 and call Bob and Tom.
Yikes.
No, still doing all that stuff.
Oh, somebody told me that they heard you being discussed on a radio show, and it was in reference to your association with Bob and Tom's, because I think this show make goofs on them, and they're talking about you, on Radio Row. I got this secondhand, so I don't even know how it went. I think it was either Preston and Steve or Free Beer and Hot Wings. Forget which one it was.
Oh, it's somebody that sees me wandering around on Super Bowl weekends.
Yeah. Something like that.
That's funny. I'm so bad at some of the hustle part, but that week I always I always go to the highest end of the range that I have.
Yeah.
I run around and hand out cards and ask them twice and check in with everybody. I don't think it's going to happen this year, that whole scene.
If we knew it, we knew now. It wouldn't have happened this year.
Yeah, that's right. Boy, that NFL got lucky with the timing, man. They got their big, beautiful championship game with their new stars and had some time in the off season to figure it all out.
That's true.
These other sports really got screwed with the timing.
No, who misses baseball though?
Not me, but I have friends who are bellyaching it's a summer with no baseball. I get it.
Yeah.
Everyone has their thing.
Yeah. All right, I'll try to be more empathetic to baseball fans. It's my pledge to you.
All right, I don't care. Throw baseball under the bus. If I never saw a baseball game again, it would be fine. I like sitting outside eating a hot dog with my friends. If there's baseball, that's fine. I feel the same way about baseball as I do golf. I like all the trappings of golf, but not the golf part.
Yeah, that part sucks.
Trash talking to your friends and riding around in a cart with a bunch of beers in the sunshine. That's great.
Yeah, I like that. Just do bumper cars.
That's more fun drunk anyway.
Absolutely.
I miss you, man. Let's do this sooner than a month and a half or whatever it's been.
Yeah. I'm more or less available.
Is that right? Yeah, me too.
Let me check my schedule. Same shit I did the past 5 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Me too, man. All right. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. This was a pleasure to talk to you, man. We'll talk to you more often going forward, whether there's football or not. We'll figure it all out.
All right, buddy. Go NFL.
See you guys.